Hello there, welcome ladies and gentlemen, students of the Strategic Case Study Exam taking the November 2020 session. Welcome to the official first pre-scene related video by AZB Education. Of course, you know we start with reading the pre-scene, and this I'm going to do it in two parts because you will notice when you read the pre-scene, probably with me, that it's a little technical. So I don't want it to be too heavy on you in the first reading itself. We are going to look at the industry component initially and the company component in the second video. So watch out for the second video as well. But before we get started, because you probably are watching this video in the public domain, a couple of very quick announcements. You know the CIMA SCS with AZB coaching program, the most comprehensive, complete, and highly affordable, um, highly personalized, and complete coaching program. CIMA SCS with AZB is accessible for you. All you have to do is visit www.cimascs.com and you can review the details, use our content, get started on your learning process. And depending on the point of which you're watching this video, you can either join the commencement session, which is free, by clicking on register now, or enroll for the program with looking at all the options available for you. All right. On that note, another gentle reminder is if you're someone who's watching my content the first time, you have never come across, and you're someone who is just getting started with the strategic case study exam, please make sure that you check out the official YouTube playlist, which has pretty much a lot of important information, very seamlessly and very easily accessible, very methodically explained in the official YouTube playlist. So make sure you watch it. You make sure you access that. There's a lot of content there to get you started, to help you understand what the case study is all about, to help you motivate yourself, to give you the right guidance. So on that note, let's get started with the pre-scene reading. Something I noticed, and you would have noticed as well, is the AICP and CIMA combination, the Association of International Certified Professional Accountants. So moving forth, you will start seeing this logo and the combination of these two institutions with the logo almost everywhere. In addition to that, you will also notice that your CGMA certificate will be a certificate issued by the combination of the body. So that's probably a very good thing. Hopefully, it'll expose CIMA to newer markets. All right. So, strategic case study examination, November 2022, February 2023 pre-scene material. Whoa, what do we have here? That's a heating appliance. Anyone familiar with it? I'm sure most of you who are taking CIMA from countries that are coming from very seasonal nations, you will have familiarity with what this is. The COVID-19 statement has changed to the context statement. They say we are aware that there has been and remains a significant amount of change globally. So they're not only talking about COVID, but everything that's going on, the Ukrainian war that's going on with Russia, the impacts globally in terms of climate change, the tornadoes, the hurricanes, so all of that. To assist with clarity and fairness, we do not expect students to factor these changes in when responding to or preparing for case studies. This pre-scene and its associated exams, while aiming to reflect real life, are set in a context where current and ongoing global issues have not had an impact. Remember, marks in the exam will be awarded for valid arguments that are relevant to the question asked. Answers that make relevant references to current affairs will, of course, be marked on their merits. So, they're not negating your opportunities to refer to current affairs, to refer to what's going on in the world, but it'll be based on merit, and it'll be based on how well you've considered this statement, because you cannot really write an answer completely assuming that there's a war going on in the nation. right? So they want to remove that sort of heavy assumptions that can affect your answer and keep it very neutral. In a neutral environment, how would this work? Of course, in the unseen, they can bring in, CIMA has the complete freedom to bring in various unexpected scenarios, unexpected situations. So that is unseen based. The general context you're operating is that there's neutrality in the global business environment. All right. So the company is Hottayr, but we will be looking at the initial portion, especially focusing on the industry aspect. Introduction. Hottayr is a quoted company that manufactures domestic heating products, mainly gas boilers and air source heat pumps. You're a senior manager in Hottayr's finance function. You report directly to the board and advise on special projects and strategic matters. So this is pretty much very standard stuff. What you always get, it's positioning you to understand, the basic overview of the company, and it gives you the snapshot of the circumstance you are dealing with. Hottayr is based in Norland, a developed country that has an active and well regulated stock exchange. Norland's currency is the N dollar. Norland requires companies to prepare their financial statements in accordance with international financial reporting standards. So some of you might be wondering, the fact that they are very clear on the statement saying Hottayr has to follow IFRSs. Does that mean that I need to remember all of the standards? I need to remember, how the debit credit entries work for all these, respective standards you learn, especially in F1 and F2? Not at all. As far as the strategic case study is concerned, your primary area as far as financial management is concerned is the management of finances, the top level decisions, the board level matters. So you will leave these things, or the accounting particulars, to the accountants, so to speak, that will be reporting to you mostly because you're the senior finance manager. All right. So on that note, I'm going to switch to a full screen view, and let's read the industry portion of the pre-scene that has been assigned to you. Domestic central heating systems. Heating systems are necessary to keep rooms at comfortable temperatures and to prevent dampness caused by condensation. Most dwellings in countries that have cold weather for a significant part of the year have central heating systems. These use a central heat source, such as a boiler or heat pump, to heat water that is then pumped round the dwelling in order to heat each room. Traditional combustion based boilers. Gas boilers are popular in countries that have mains gas, usually natural gas, piped to individual dwellings. Gas is an efficient fuel that is used to power central heating boilers for cooking and to heat water for bathing and cleaning. A gas powered boiler is connected to the dwelling's gas and cold water supplies. The boiler heats water by burning gas. The hot water is then either pumped round the dwelling to heat radiators, or it can be used as hot water for baths, showers, and washing. Most countries impose strict regulations to ensure the safety of gas boilers. The boilers themselves must meet safety standards, and they must be installed and maintained by qualified plumbers to ensure that there can be no gas leaks. Domestic gas boilers are generally designed to have relatively little need for controls that require users to make any adjustments once they have been installed and switched on. Consumers must buy separate controllers that combine thermostats and clocks to manage heat output and the availability of hot water. Thermostats can vary in sophistication from basic mechanical devices to electronic devices that can be operated by smartphones. Gas boilers can be powered using liquid petroleum gas that is stored outdoors in a tank and piped into the dwelling as required. the tank is replenished by a tanker vehicle. Some dwellings use oil-fired boilers. Those require a similar arrangement to LP gas systems, liquid petroleum gas systems, with a tank containing heating oil located in the garden and an oil-burning boiler used to heat water in the home. Wood-burning stoves can be used as a heat source for central heating systems. Householders burn logs that provide radiant heat within the room. Pipes at the back of the stove heat water that is then used to heat other rooms in the same manner as for gas and oil burning boilers. The wood that is burned in wood burning stoves is a renewable energy source, making them more environmentally friendly than gas or oil powered boilers. Nevertheless, all heat sources that rely on combustion release carbon into the atmosphere. Nevertheless, all heat sources that rely on combustion release carbon into the atmosphere. Distributing heat around the home. A network of pipes made from either copper or plastic carries hot water from the boiler to each room in the dwelling that is to be heated. The most popular method of heating a room is to install one or more radiators. Radiators are metal pipes that are designed to transfer heat from the hot water that flows through them into the surrounding air. That release of heat energy warms the room, cooling the hot water in the process. The water carries on through the pipes to the next radiator where further heat is released. Central heating systems are designed to ensure that every room is heated to a satisfactory extent. Boilers come in different capacities, with more powerful boilers producing more hot water, which enables them to provide heat across larger houses. Larger radiators release more heat energy and so can heat a larger volume of air. Larger rooms require larger radiators or perhaps multiple radiators. Radiators are usually fitted with thermostats. Those can be used to regulate the amount of heat that is released into any given room and so prevents uncomfortably high temperatures. Underfloor heating is an alternative to radiators. Hot water from the boiler is piped from room to room. Plastic pipes are set into the concrete floor in a zigzag design that enables heat to be released, creating an even heat across the whole room and avoiding the need to install radiators on the walls of the room. The pipes are embedded in the floor and so they cannot be seen and they can be walked across without causing any damage. The floor can be covered with any conventional floor covering, although carpets tend to act as insulators and so reduce the effect of the heat flow. Heat pumps. Heat pumps capture heat energy from a source and release it elsewhere. The source may be cooler than the destination. There are several different applications of this technology. Application 1. Refrigerators and freezers use heat pumps to capture heat energy from the interior of the appliance and move it to the exterior. Doing so reduces the temperature inside the appliance and so helps to keep food fresh or to chill drinks. If the heat pump was switched off, then the higher temperature in the room would lead to heat energy flowing back into the cooler interior of the refrigerator or freezer until it reached room temperature. Application 2. Air conditioners use the same principle to take heat energy from a room that is uncomfortably warm and then release that energy outside. The room becomes cooler and more comfortable while the device is in operation. Heat pumps can be used to capture heat energy that can be used in central heating systems. That's application 3. Heat pumps can be used to capture heat energy that can be used in central heating systems. Heat energy is captured from outside a building and is released inside to make the interior warmer. So that's basically the reverse or the opposite of air conditioners. Heat pumps do not create heat energy, they simply move it from one place to another. The technology required to create an effective heat pump relies on a number of physical laws. These are illustrated in the following diagram. So you've got a diagram with 4 components, and this is basically a simple explanation of how a heat pump, or what we generally call an air conditioner in some countries, works. It's the same mechanism, has 4 components: evaporator, compressor, condenser, and expansion valve. We will be looking at it in detail as we work on the um, pre-scene analysis, but for now, let's look at the pre-scene itself. Evaporator. The refrigerant evaporates, which captures heat energy from outside air. And then the compressor, where the gas from the evaporator is compressed, which increases its temperature. And then it moves to the condenser, where the refrigerant cools, releasing heat energy. And finally, the expansion valve does basically what the pressure on the refrigerant gas decreases, lowering its temperature still further and condensing it back to the liquid. So if I may repeat, the evaporator takes care of the refrigerant, where the refrigerant evaporates, which captures heat energy from the outside air. Then that moves to the compressor, where the gas from the evaporator is compressed, which increases its temperature. Then that moves to the condenser, and the refrigerant cools, releasing heat energy. And finally, in the expansion valve, the pressure on the refrigerant gas decreases, lowering its temperature still further and condensing it back to liquid. Heat pumps rely on a volatile liquid called refrigerant, which is trapped inside a pipe. The refrigerant is pumped round the pipe in a continuous cycle. The evaporator is a section of a pipe that has been twisted into a coil or a zigzag shape to increase its area. It is used to capture heat energy. Heat pumps generally use hydrofluorocarbons, HFCs, as refrigerants. These boil at very low temperatures, sometimes as low as minus 20 degrees Celsius. When liquids boil, they evaporate into gas, which captures heat. The refrigerant is warmer when it leaves the evaporator than it was when it entered. The compressor increases the pressure of the gas, which further increases its temperature. The refrigerant is now hot enough to be useful as a heat source. The condenser is a further coil or zigzag of piping that allows the refrigerator or the refrigerant gas to cool, and so when it cools, it releases its heat energy. In central heating systems, the condenser is used to heat water that can then be pumped into a hot water tank for washing or to radiators or underfloor heating pipes. The expansion valve reduces the pressure on the refrigerant gas. Decreasing the pressure cools the gas, which releases still more heat. The refrigerant can then be returned to the evaporator and the cycle continues. There is a constant flow of refrigerant through the heat pump, so there is a constant cycle of heat being captured and released. The flow is driven by electrical pumps. Heat pumps also contain a variety of sensors that can be used to optimize the operation of the device. Valves and other components within the heat pumps can be controlled by electronics connected to those sensors to improve heat output or reduce electricity consumption. Heat pumps in central heating systems. Heat pumps are alternatives to boilers as heat sources for central heating systems. A heat pump's evaporator can be located outside of a building, where it will capture the heat energy even during the cold weather. And the image you see is what you call a split end of a heat pump, which is basically the evaporator. The condenser and expansion valve are located inside the home with pipes installed through the wall to carry the refrigerant around the system. Some heat pumps can reverse the flow of heat, which means that they can be used to heat a building during winter and cool it down in summer. That is potentially attractive to consumers in countries that have wide temperature variations between the seasons. Heat pumps do not need electricity to create heat energy, but they depend on a number of electrical components in their operation. These include the compressor, the circulator pump used to maintain the flow of refrigerant, and fans or pumps that help with the circulation of air or water around the evaporator and the condenser. In cold climates, it may also be necessary to use electricity to heat mechanisms located outdoors to prevent them from icing up. Heat pumps cost less to run than traditional boilers, despite their need to consume electrical power. Typically, a heat pump can deliver 3 kilowatts of heat energy for every kilowatt of electricity consumed. Unfortunately, heat pumps cost more to buy and install. An air source heat pump will cost roughly 5 times more than an equivalent gas boiler, and a ground source heat pump can be even more expensive. Heat pumps capture heat energy from the environment that is supplied by the sun. There is no combustion and so no carbon emission. Care must be taken in the installation, maintenance, and replacement of heat pumps to ensure that the refrigerant is not accidentally released. Refrigerants harm the environment by causing global warming if they are allowed to escape in the atmosphere. It is, however, possible to drain the refrigerant from old heat pumps into sealed tanks for reuse or safe disposal. Heat pumps can capture energy from outside in almost any weather, although they become less efficient at lower temperatures. In practice, a heat pump can supply a central heating system with sufficient heat energy when outside temperatures are as low as minus 15 degrees Celsius. That is rarely a problem in many countries, including Norland, because it is seldom that cold. Air source heat pumps collect heat energy from air as it passes over the evaporator. This is the simplest type of heat pump for use in heating systems, and it is the most popular. The evaporator is enclosed in a housing along with a fan that draws air into the apparatus. The condenser and the other components are enclosed in another housing that is inside the house and is connected to the central heating and hot water systems. Refrigerant flows between the interior and exterior housings using pipes that run through the wall. Air source heat pumps have the drawback of being exposed to variable air temperatures, which change with the weather and so affects their efficiency. They are, however, relatively easy to install. The interior workings of a heat pump that is being installed in place of a gas boiler can be fitted in place of the boiler that is to be removed. The exterior housing also remains accessible for any repairs in the event of a breakdown or leak. Ground source heat pumps are an alternative to air source. Those use the same principle as air source pumps, except that the evaporator is placed underground or is submerged in a body of water. The evaporator then captures heat energy from the surrounding earth or liquid in the same way as an air source device. The temperature around the evaporator is less severely affected by changing weather conditions, and so it is more efficient than the air source equivalent. The need to bury the evaporator can complicate the installation of a ground source heat pump compared to an air source pump. The evaporator must be several feet below ground in order to capture heat energy efficiently and also to be protected from damage. Not all homes will have a suitable outdoor space in which to install the evaporator. Ground source heat pumps require the same equipment to be installed inside the house as air source pumps. So there is no installation or there is no difference to the installation inside the house. One disadvantage of all heat pumps, both air source and ground source, is that they produce hot water that is cooler than the water from a boiler. The difference is roughly 10 degrees for air source heat pumps and a little less for ground source. In either case, that can mean that a central heating system based on a heat pump will struggle to raise the room temperature to a comfortable level. That problem can be solved by using larger radiators than for a traditional boiler-based system or by installing underfloor heating when installing a heat pump. Either option will provide a larger surface area for the transfer of heat, although the cost of doing so could discourage many homeowners from replacing their gas boilers with heat pumps. It is easier to install heating systems based on heat pumps in new homes because they can be built with larger radiators or underfloor heating pipes in place. Alternative heating systems. There are alternatives to boilers and heat pumps when powering central heating systems. The first mentioned here is solar thermal panels. Solar thermal panels can be used to capture heat from sunlight to heat water. The panels contain pipes filled with water. The glass helps to focus the sunlight on the pipes, and the water heats up before being piped to a hot water tank. Solar panels are simpler than heat pumps, but they rely on sunlight to heat water. No energy can be collected during hours of darkness, and the panels will be less effective when skies are cloudy. Photovoltaic solar panels use a different technology to convert sunlight into electricity. Both types of solar panel requires homeowners to have a suitable location for an array of panels. They are usually mounted on a rooftop in the northern hemisphere. It would be ideal if that rooftop was facing south in order to maximize exposure to sunlight throughout the day. The next alternative provided is district heat. District heat is a communal heating system that is usually provided by city governments that have access to biomass fuel that can be burned to create heat. District heat is a communal heating system that is usually provided by city governments that have access to biomass fuel that can be burned to create heat. Biomass takes a variety of forms, including waste forestry wood, agricultural residue, such as wheat stalks, and even household wastage. A large biomass boiler heats water that is pumped into individual homes in surrounding buildings. District heat systems involve combustion, so they cause carbon emissions. They are, however, generally more efficient than having separate heat sources in individual dwellings. This technology tends to be popular in locations that can offer cheap fuel from nearby sources. For example, a city with a large commercial forestry on its outskirts will have a ready supply of combustible material that would otherwise be dumped. And the third alternative provided is electric heaters. Electric heaters can be freestanding or wall mounted. In either case, they are connected to the household electricity supply. The flow of electricity through wiring that has a high resistance creates heat. Electrical heaters or electric heaters were popular before central heating became popular. They are easy to install in any room. They are also flexible because heaters can be switched on and off in different rooms in line with occupants' needs. These heaters offer convenience but are relatively expensive to operate. Global sales of domestic heating technologies. Boilers are slowly declining in popularity because of environmental concerns about carbon emissions. Consumers are, however, often reluctant to switch to heat pumps because of the cost of doing so. Heat pumps cost more than boilers, and they usually require a significant investment in new radiators or underfloor heating. Consumers often replace old boilers with newer models that are more efficient and more reliable than their existing models. Demand for boilers is expected to decline more rapidly within the next few years because many governments have committed themselves to achieving a target of zero net carbon emissions. Governments will make increasing use of a combination of incentives to install heat pumps and legislation to discourage the manufacture and sale of boilers. It is anticipated that this will leave a small residual demand for boilers from consumers whose properties are unsuitable for heat pumps. Electric heaters are electric heaters and solar thermal panels will continue to be used alongside other heating technologies. Mains electricity can be generated from renewable energy sources, which means that electric heaters need not cause emissions in operation. All right, that brings us to a few charts that are quite graphic. Let's take a look at those. Global sales of domestic heating technologies 2015 to 2030. So you basically have four pie charts: 2015, 2020, 2025, and 2030. And each pie chart has a combination of these components: gas and oil boilers, electric heaters, heat pumps, district heat, solar thermal panels. And the main observation that we can get from the representation here is that gas and oil boilers in 2015 take up more than 50%. But the forecast for 2030 clearly shows that gas and oil boilers will be as small as 5 to 10%. Whereas, in complete contrast, heat pumps in 2015 are a very small portion, nearly 5 to 10%. But by 2030, the forecast of heat pumps is almost 50%. So, what we basically, from a gist of things, can gauge is that gas and oil based boilers are declining in their popularity and adoption, while heat pumps are increasing in their popularity and adoption. And there seems to be a huge market, a global market for heat pumps growing, while the market for gas and oil based boilers is declining. And basically, the charts are a representation of residential properties. The proportions of global revenue by type of heating technology is what we looked at. The promotion of renewable energy sources is expected to boost the unit sales of heat pumps more than other sustainable heat sources. Solar thermal panels are not suitable for every location and are not always capable of meeting a household's entire need for heating and hot water. District heat requires a major investment in infrastructure and so tends to rely on government support, generally in areas that are being redeveloped. That brings us to Norland's residential central heating market. Norland has a temperate climate with a significant variation in temperature from season to season throughout the year. And that's what's been provided to us in degrees Celsius, Norland's average daily temperature. So we're looking at a highly seasonal temperate climate, where from January to July, the temperature keeps increasing from about 5% to up to 20%. And then July onwards to December, it's falling back down from 20 to back to about, roughly 5%. Temperatures vary significantly during the day, with cooler temperatures during the hours of darkness and higher temperatures during the daylight hours. Winter nighttime temperatures are often below 0 degrees Celsius. There is also significant seasonal variations around the average daily temperatures. It is not unusual for cold periods in winter when the temperature remains below 0 degrees Celsius for a week or more. Similarly, there can be hot spells during the summer when the temperature reaches 30 degrees Celsius. Most householders heat their homes from mid-autumn until early spring. Most householders heat their homes from mid-autumn until early spring. Heating costs can be a significant part of a typical Norlandian family's budget. Norland's government is committed to reducing carbon emissions to zero. Heat pumps are promoted as offering a contribution towards meeting that target. It has been estimated that 20% of Norland's carbon emissions are attributable to domestic heating. Norlandian homeowners collectively spend an average of $1.6 billion each year on the purchase of central heating systems. That includes the installation of central heating in new homes and also the replacement of existing systems that are deemed unsafe, unreliable, or inefficient. So, how does this occur? Replacements for existing systems. Gas boilers can become unreliable over time, leaving homes without heating when a component fails. Older designs are also less efficient than current models, meaning that they use more gas in order to maintain a comfortable temperature. At present, most homeowners replace defective gas boilers with newer models but keep their existing radiators. Demand for heat pumps is growing slowly in this market because the pumps themselves are more expensive than gas boilers, and there is likely to be a further cost due to the need for upgraded radiators or underfloor heating. New build homes. House builders often install heat pumps in new build houses because they are an attractive selling feature for potential buyers. The additional cost is not a significant factor in relation to the total cost of a new house. Radiators or underfloor heating pipes can be installed during the house's construction for about the same cost as for traditional radiators for gas boilers. And that brings us to the end of the industrial understanding portion of your pre-scene. Pretty interesting stuff. We are basically dealing with the domestic residential heating market and the residential heating industry. Heating is a huge thing for nearly 1/3 of Earth. We will be looking at this industry in a more closer manner in the industrial analysis when we meet during the sessions. So I'm looking forward to seeing you all, ladies and gentlemen. With that note, watch out for the second video where we will be looking at Hottayr, the company, a very interesting company of which you are the senior finance manager, and we'll take it forward from there. Good luck. Enjoy your pre-scene and all the very best. Happy learning, folks.